Hi everyone, welcome to our event today on Azure FastTrack series. We are hosting Orca Security Customer Story today. My name is Moria, I'm from the Reactor team based in Israel, and we're super excited to have you here today. Just a few housekeeping before we start. If you have any comments or questions that you want to refer to the speakers, please feel free to use the chat box and we will take the time to answer your questions at the end. This event is going to be recorded and will be available to you later on our YouTube channel. I'm going to share also a link with you for a survey that we conduct at the end of the event. So that will be available for you also in the chat. That's it from my side. I'm going to pass it over now to Moshik to kick off today's session. So Moshik, over to you.
Thank you, Moria, and hi, everyone. Great to be here. I'm very excited about our first Azure FastTrack meetup. And this time, we're going to focus mostly on the Orca security customer story and how the new agentless approach to the cloud security. I'll introduce myself shortly. I'm Azure FastTrack for ISVs and Startup Principal PM here in Microsoft. I'm based in Tel Aviv, but our organization is global, and we are focusing on mainly onboarding startups and ISVs to Azure, helping them actually to design, to build, and public commercial applications on the marketplace. Let's move on to our first slide, and then I'm going to hand it over to Miriam Lahiji and John Alexander. So I'll first would like to introduce you to Azure FastTrack because it's our first meetup. There's going to be some more customer stories, so I hope that you could join us. It's relatively a new story. It's a new service that we're providing to startups and ISVs to provide technical enablement to accelerate their ability to work with the Microsoft cloud-based solutions, and in particular Azure. We have some Azure engineers from the product group that provide technical guidance to qualified organizations like Orca Security and other ISVs and startups that already joined the program. Let's move to the next slide. The main scenarios that we're focusing on is when you would like to build a new application, would you would like to migrate or replicate or to move your applications from on-prem or from a competitive cloud. Could be that also modernization is applicable scenario, and also when you would like to publish commercial applications in the marketplace. This is a slide that I like to show because in our relatively short time, in the last year, we accumulated a lot of great quotes from customers. You can see here many worldwide customers that provided us their feedback. And definitely it's being public in the Azure blog and also in LinkedIn and other avenue channels. So let us know if you would like to join the program. And from here, I would hand it over to Miriam and John.
Hi, everyone. I'm Miriam Lahiji. I'm the Senior Alliances Manager at Orca Security. I manage the relationship with Azure and very excited to be here and partner with the Azure FastTrack team. They've been wonderful. So today we're going to go over who is Orca, like what do we do, why are we here, and then walk through the actual partnership and what it means for you. So Orca was founded in 2018 by about 8 co-founders who came from actually Checkpoint. So we are an Israeli-based startup, and they noticed that something was broken in the cloud. They wanted a better way of being able to get visibility into their environments, so they built it. So since then, we actually just announced around $550 million in funding. We've been growing extremely fast. We're over 200 employees. For context, when I started earlier this year, we were under 100, so extreme rapid growth. And we have a great investor line as well as some wonderful awards, including the Microsoft Security Emerging Security ISV Disruptor Award. And also, in addition to our accolades, we have amazing client logos. And many of the clients want to go on record saying how much they really value the Orca security platform and what a game changer it's been for them. So lots of companies, there's from all around, especially in particular ones in certain verticals like fintech or media entertainment. Those are also great as well. And at Orca, we really were founded on three principles that drive our mission. So first, we believe that the coverage is paramount to true cloud security, but you can't have it without friction. The friction causes gaps in coverage that lead to breaches. So we want to be able to provide you 100% coverage and also remove that friction. The second point is comprehensive. We think that the cloud must be secured holistically, so you get a multiple tools that do the same thing is not what we want. We want to be, actually that is what we want. We don't want to have multiple tools doing different things and they're all working in silos. We want to have one tool that secures your environment holistically and provides you visibility into everything in one shot. And the other part of it is context. The context, if you don't have context, you have a ton of alerts that you don't know what to do with, which ones prioritize over the other. So really, it's best to have context around your alerts so you can make the right decisions for your business. And with that, I will pass it over to the why, and John is going to take us through our actual reason for being here, as far as why we developed Orca to begin with, the two problems that were the most important for our founders, and then how we're solving it. John, I'll let you take it away.
All right, great. Thanks, Miriam. So I'll start with why Orca, and we can go to the next slide. And these are just two basic slides where we like to start out with the problem that we solve, right, or the needs that we address from the customer. And they're really just two of them, the big ones that we address. And one is the fact that agents don't scale. So what that means is, if you're familiar with cloud security, most cloud security solutions today use agents. They put an agent on every workload and they work that way. Well, we've actually done testing with our anonymized customer base, and we've actually found that less than 50% of cloud assets are actually covered by agent-based solutions. You'd think it wouldn't be that much, but it can be that much. So it's a big problem. And the big problem stems that managing agents is difficult. They're impossible to get everywhere. Sometimes you'll be running old versions of a customized version of Linux on a workload, and an agent just won't be available for it, right? So automatically you can't protect that workload. Also, of course, with workloads, as we know, you get significant performance degradation. They take processing power, especially if they're doing things like malware detection or something like that. They're really churning along, and you might be losing 20% of your workload at some point, right? And that's a lot when you're a company maybe like Netflix that's thrives on getting every ounce out of their workloads. That's a big price to pay. Organizational friction is the sorry, if you can go back, is the issue that managing agents causes friction, because it's like everybody's always pointing the finger at everybody else. Is like, oh, I thought you were managing the agents. I thought you'd loaded them up. Well, there's a lot of friction between development teams, DevOps teams, IT, and security that way on who's in charge of the agents. And overall, that all adds up to a higher total cost of ownership with agents. So we can go on to the next slide. And the other big problem that we solve, and this isn't like surprising, like people would go like, this is a big problem. And I remember talking to a lot of people in the industry 10 years ago, is like, we need to solve this problem. Well, the advantage that Orca has is it started only a few years ago, and it's like, okay, we're going to start this problem. And it's easier to solve when you solve it from the ground up. You actually design your product to actually, for every module in your product, to talk to each other and inform each other. So at the end result, the customer problem is that you may have 10,000 alerts in your system, and then you're like, well, what do I work on first, right? And when you have a system that uses a lot of context to prioritize, you can actually go down and say, well, these are the 100 or these are the 200 out of the 10,000 that you should work on first. And that's what we call solving the alert overload or alert fatigue problem. So that's the problems that we address. So how does Orca do this, right? What is life with Orca? Well, it starts with one fundamental technology that we have, which is called SideScanning. And the whole idea, and this wasn't actually even possible until about 2018, but all the cloud service providers, including Microsoft Azure, said, hey, we can make life easier for people and make life better. And they created the technology that enabled side scanning. So before 2017, 2018, you just couldn't have done it. And of course, the people that founded Orca said, whoa, this is great stuff. Let's leverage this technology and build our own technology. So what we do is we actually scan the runtime block storage of cloud accounts. So we get all the information and we can reconstruct that account. So we actually don't need to put agents on workloads. We can get all that information either by looking at the runtime block storage for workloads or using the CSP, the cloud service provider metadata. We use their APIs to get data on the cloud account layer. And we combine that, and essentially we rebuild the customer's environment completely 100%. And we'll in a bit we'll see what advantages that gains, but that's how we do it. So what do we do? So that's the big technology that gives us a big advantage in the market. We do a variety of things that other people do, and generally this is them. This is a bit of an eye chart, so I'm not going to go into detail, but we generally do these 6 things plus a few more. These are the major ones. We don't list everything that we do, but we do the bread and butter vulnerability management. We do misconfiguration detection, which is also pretty bread and butter these days. We look at authentication risk, which is kind of a really trending topic these days. We're actually able to look at sensitive data, and we're able to do that. That's not new technology to look at sensitive data on things, but because we can scan out of band and not affect workloads, we can actually, it's very resource intensive. So we can do that resource intensive effort without affecting the customer. And the same thing for lateral movement risk. It's a very resource intensive activity, which we can do out of band because we have that side scanning technology. So we kind of lend some new things. So that's pretty much it. I think we can move on. Yep. Now, as far as this is like our benefit slide. So in the end of the day, side scanning is the technology. What does this all translate to the user in terms of benefits? Well, first of all, you actually have visibility of 100% of all your assets. You have 100% coverage. If you again, I don't want to reiterate this too much, but if you use agents, you don't. Again, you forgot to install an agent on something. Somebody forgot. They were on PTO and they were supposed to schedule a bunch of agents to get loaded on a certain account. It didn't happen. It will happen maybe in a couple of days, right? The system might not support an agent, so you can't run an agent on it anyways. But with side scanning, you actually can cover 100% of your workloads, 100% of your cloud account. And we do that, but we also provide a ton of different tools, of useful tools using that technology, right? Again, the vulnerability management, configuration management, misconfiguration detection, malware detection, etc. And that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle is what I already talked about. We actually built our system so that the vulnerability management system actually provides data to the configuration management system saying, hey, and so they talk to each other. They know, for example, is like, hey, this asset is like directly connected to the internet, or this S3 bucket, isn't encrypted, right? So, and they use that context to like go, okay, we need to bump up the priority, the risk level of this vulnerability so that this is something that needs to be worked on. While something that's like, you might have a workload that's turned off, right? It's paused or idle or something, and then and Orca knows that. It's like, oh, that asset is turned off, right? It's stopped. So, okay, it's low priority, right? So we don't need to deal with that immediately. So Orca is very smart in that way, that all the different modules talk to each other, and we call that context. And then finally, we have compliance. A lot of people have compliance, but again, it's layered on that side scanning technology. The strength that we have with compliance, again, is that we have 100% coverage on compliance, where, if you can't comply to something that you can't see. So if you don't have an agent on something, but guess what? You're not compliant on that workload, right? But with Orca, you're compliant on all, you have visibility into everything. So you have the opportunity to be compliant with everything. This slide is kind of interesting. We had done a little work with an outside agency on messaging earlier this year, and we looked at a lot of our customers in different ways. But this is just the list of the kind of customers that we really excel at. If we generally have 2 of these check marks filled or 3 in a customer, it's generally a fairly easy win for us, right? It's a customer that's very interested in our technology. Not surprising, right? Things like being cloud forward, right? One interesting thing is because of how easy it is to onboard Orca, we're really good at mergers and acquisition activity. In fact, we've got several big wins in that area where customers basically only using us for merger and acquisitions. They can onboard accounts really quickly, take a quick look at them, and get an assessment of that company's security really quick. And you don't need to, have a plan and enlist, an army of 50 IT people to load agents to get that picture, but you can do it quickly and easily without involving only a few people to do that. I think we can move on that on the next slide. I'll spend a little bit of time here, but this slide, we have a whole persona guide at Orca, but we decided to distill the main issues, and usually it's looking at this the security practitioner in general. We kind of rolled everything up into one persona, and these are the typical questions that you typically ask a sales for a customer to kind of get an idea as if an Orca is a good fit, and work that sales process. But you, some of the things that we're really good at is if you have compliance initiatives, that's always a great one for Orca. Again, it's the whole agents thing versus agents. How much pain are you feeling if you're using agents, right? And if you're feeling a lot of pain, Orca is a great solution. And then again, the alert fatigue. So all these questions, if you look at them, I'm not going to read them all, but they all fit into what I've already talked about. They're questions to probe in and kind of set the stage. Like, okay, do you have a need for Orca, or maybe the need that you have you didn't realize Orca can solve, right? So your typical stuff. I'm going to go ahead and move on, I think, and go on to the next one.
One note on this one is if you are if you are the startup, if you are the CISO or the CTO of your company, take a look at these questions, because chances are we could help you. There are different use cases that we have, specifically the ones that John mentioned, like compliance. If you are going through a process, we can help you get there faster. And there are many other ways. Also, if you are a developer, we work with the DevOps team a lot. There's the whole shifting left movement where we help the DevOps team look at security in a different way, and makes it easy for them to not disrupt their workloads while they're building, so that you can be secure as you're building. So there's different parts of our tool as well. So we'll share we'll share this deck. It'll be there. But if you have questions or if these relate to you, please do reach out.
Okay.
And
great. Thanks, Miriam. I might let you take this slide as well, Miriam. I think you probably know it better.
No problem. So this is an example of one of our customers on Azure. And really, they wanted a tool for compliance as well as more vulnerability management and to secure their configuration. So they really looked at us because they wanted to be compliant. And this was different because they wanted to use the tool on their clients as well. So they had several regulatory or industry compliance aspects that they needed to adhere to, and we helped them get there very quickly. And so very quickly, within 2 months, essentially, that was the thing that was really important. They wanted to get up and running. So our built-in compliance modules made it very seamless for them to be able to do that. And also our integration with Azure Sentinel helped them with ticketing with ServiceNow. So that was very important for them, as well as they were our integration. So we have integrations with Sentinel. We have the SSO integration. We also are integrated with other tools within your stack, such as Atlassian's Jira, PagerDuty, Splunk. So we have a lot of integrations that'll help make it easier for you. And then also They were able to get compliant. They reduced development time by 1.5 full-time employees and provided more visibility. So they actually unlocked those employees to be able to focus on other things because we took care of a lot of that. So this is just one of the examples. Again, we have a ton of customer stories on our website that you can refer to. It's actually like for such an early stage startup, when I joined, I was like very baffled about all of the customers that are major customers going on record talking about Orca. So it's very intriguing to hear the different stories.
I wanted to add a little bit about the Beyond Trust one, but the Beyond Trust is an interesting win too, because they really like us because they run a lot of weird workloads. They have like a lot of custom operating system images that they run that other vendors, they don't have agents for. They can't even protect them. And Orca was able to go in and scan everything and give them the security that they needed.
Awesome. So now I'm going to go a bit into our partnership with Azure. Really, our partnership with Azure is only beginning. We got connected to the FastTrack team, I believe it was in August. So I had the pleasure of meeting with Moshik and some other members of the team. We really want to build our partnership and grow quickly. Just like I mentioned, we've been growing very rapidly in general, and we want to accelerate that. And the FastTrack team has been incredible to help us get connected to the right people, to get the actual like marketplace listing integration discussions going, and also marketing. So in all aspects, they've been really lovely to work with. And so we are working with our marketplace listing. We should be live on the Azure marketplace by December. So we're working on the integration now with the team. And it's very important to us to be able to provide our tool in the area that you all want to procure and buy. So we're very big on making sure that we're part of the marketplace, we're part of the partnership, and we're really going, we're an added layer to Azure's environments and partnership in general. So we're just trying to provide more visibility into what you're doing already and make it a bit more seamless. We have joint integrations with Sentinel and SSO. We're always open and discussing new integrations that are necessary or needed. We're very open to that. We have an integration team that's fantastic. So if there are tools or areas of Microsoft that we need to be integrated with, we are happy to take a look at that and constantly improving that as well. And we have some exciting partnership items coming up. So to the right is the brochure. So that's going to be coming up very soon, as well as an ebook that discusses best practices and cloud visibility and cloud security and our new approach to cloud security overall. So we'll definitely follow up with you all once we have those tools, those actual documents. But essentially, we are walking and crawling, now walking towards the right path for the partnership. So now I wanted to open it up to questions. If there are any.
I think there's one question that I'm seeing from AKS. If I'm using only Azure and I know Azure Sentinel can be made workable in my premise, still do I need to use Orca? Because it involves additional cost too. I think the question is for you, John.
Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, so I can answer this one. So this comes up quite a bit, this kind of question. So as we all know, Microsoft Azure has security tools, right? So in general, what happens is most of these tools are complementary, right? Typically, the tools that Microsoft Azure offers will do certain things, usually on the cloud account layer, and they usually won't touch the workload layer. So it depends on the tool. So I don't want to get into detail about Azure Sentinel in general, but in general, there's a complementary aspect to what Orca does and what some of the Microsoft tools do.
Thank you for asking. Are there any other questions? Okay. Can you give me an example for service which agent will not work, but SideScanner yes?
That actually is different. Like side scanning doesn't work with services. The way everybody gets information from services is by using the cloud service provider APIs. So we'd use the Microsoft Azure API. Every vendor does that. So there's no difference. You can get access to every service, and anybody can. Where we differentiate ourselves as side scanning is with workloads. So with a workload, you have to have an agent installed. So, and we can get at any workload. Where I reiterated a little bit, sometimes you can't put a workload somewhere for a variety of different reasons. It won't work on the workload. It's not available for a given workload, or somehow because of the position of the asset, there's security reasons for not being able to install a workload. So that's kind of an idea on where side scanning differs from non side scanning solutions.
Great question, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I can see other question. Do you provide tools to protect data like Azure SQL?
I can't comment on Azure SQL specifically. We do protect a few different databases in certain ways. So you have to have knowledge. And generally, what we do is if a database has a Center for Internet Security, a CIS template above it, which a few do, we will typically support the CIS benchmark for a database. But I will tell you that I don't think we support Azure SQL directly that way. You can look at if you do provide access to the underlying storage objects, we can look at them that way. But there's certain ways of getting around it, but I don't want to go too much into detail in that. Hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, absolutely. See another question coming up.
Yeah, that's a good question. We are integrated with two automated, whatever you want to call it. I usually call them ticketing systems, but ServiceNow we do support, and we also support Jira. Those are the two ticketing systems that we support. And kind of really interesting note, in about 2 months, this is not a ticketing system, but we will actually have support for Microsoft Teams. Generally, I call that a notification system. So.
Any other questions before we close the call? Moria, do you see any other questions on your chat?
No, that was great. I'm amazed to see a lot of good technical questions. Thanks.
Yeah, indeed. Last chance. Any other last minute question? Okay.
Yep, there is one.
Ah, very good. Regarding the service, which agent won't work? Can you specify an Azure service?
Like, so you have all your Azure services, right? Again, the way you get at those, the data for those is via the Microsoft Azure APIs, which is what we use. So we can support all services, and most vendors can also do that. There's not a limitation. The example where an agent won't work, I'll give you an example with Beyond Trust. They have an interesting business model, but they'll run into a lot of they kind of work when you start working in the IoT space, the Internet of Things space. You start running into agents that run on weird devices. You start running into like custom versions of Linux, old versions of Linux that you can't patch anymore, and you're talking about like potentially thousands custom operating system images that you just can't typically support. They're running, and how do you support them? Well, the vendor is going to say, well, you're out of luck. It's too much work for us to write an agent to run on this custom operating system. So, but guess what? Side scanning works. It doesn't matter. It doesn't care. So side scanning is able to grab the data, replicate the system, and protect it. So that's the typical example, and it can surface a lot of it. It doesn't have to be this IoT thing, but you might run into a banking company that has like bank tellers and other kind. Usually, it starts delving into the world of IoT. And guess what? An agent doesn't work on this device, and you can't protect it because there's no agent available for it, or it's too much work to write an agent for that workload.
Moria, are you seeing any other questions?
I love the interactive audience we have.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, I know that almost 30 folks joined the call. I think it's a wrap up. Any final words, John, Miriam, from your side? You would like to close the call?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that you have the ability to get, obviously, if you're curious to learn more, get an actual demo of Orca.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a risk assessment program where you can actually go in and sign up and get a 30-day trial of Orca on your platform. Again, we're very easy to deploy. Sometimes it can be within minutes or hours. And then connect with us if you have questions. I mean, obviously, you can connect with us on social, but also just reach out. This is our specific Azure site, so you can learn more about our integrations and the way we work with the Azure platform. And this is my email. If you need anything at all, please do reach out. And I really want to thank the Azure FastTrack team. You've been incredible getting us up and running faster. I can't wait for all of the things that we have coming up. And also just, spreading the word of Orca. I think we are a diamond in the rough that once you find us, you'll really see why a lot of customers love us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Miriam. And John, from your side?
Yeah, my last little thing, and Miriam said this, but I just wanted to highlight, go feel, we'll have a demo available. Go feel free to try it out. And it really, when I first started Orca, like, oh yeah, you can get set up in minutes. I'm like, yeah, right. But you literally can. It's really easy to onboard. You basically, you point your Orca at your Azure account. Like onboarding one account is super easy, and then you have to set a few permissions, and there's a template, and then you set up a few permissions, you hit the button, and literally a few minutes later you start having scan data. It's pretty amazing.
Awesome. Thanks all for joining the call and for asking very good technical questions. I enjoyed it very much. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. Stay tuned to our next Azure FastTrack customer story, and it's been great hosting you, Mariam, John. Wonderful.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.